What's going on, guys? I am back for another video. This time we're going to go over my sound design basics, the way I think of things as I'm going. Sound design for me is my favorite part of EDM and everything. It's what got me into it at the very beginning. My first show, I saw Snails and Keizo and Dr. P, and I was like, what is this? And ever since then, it's been, how weird can we make the sounds without it going too crazy, and how much energy can we add? I love music, I love instrumentation, I love musicality, I love everything around it, but my favorite part is the sound design. And I've seen a lot of tutorials, I've watched a lot of tutorials, and one thing that I've learned is that the people that make the sounds don't really know how they get to the end result. What they do know is how to get to the end result, if that makes sense. You don't sit down and say, I'm going to make this crazy sound exactly what's in my head. You sit in front of the DAW and you start creating. And usually what happens is it's a sound that you didn't think was going to be what you were going to find at the end, but it's even better. Or it's completely different and you have no idea how you can recreate it. That's why I have problems with a lot of recreating videos, because usually the artists themselves are throwing shit at the wall until something sticks. And they know how to get sounds to sound good very quickly, and how to give themselves a chance to be explorative in how they make the sounds. I think the big issue also right now is a lot of people sound the same because they try and stay, as much as I love Serum 2, they stay in the synth for way too long. And I've seen it's all about the post-processing. It's all about the effects and the racks that you put on after the synth, and you turn off all the racks and you hear it and you're just like, that is not the end result that we got. So with all that being said, a big thing, two very big fundamentals whenever I'm making sounds, is the frequency spectrum and the stereo image. Those are two fundamental rules that I try and follow every time. Obviously, you can make weird sounds that the stereo, the sub is just all the way off to the sides. It really doesn't matter. And I love making sounds or putting myself in a space that I have no idea what's about to happen, and just hitting record and just seeing what happens. So I'm going to make a sound. I'm going to use just stock Ableton stuff, and we'll just see how far we stay on track until it spirals into something else. This is also the main reason I have an issue with writing around other people, is because most people aren't prepared to hear me do no. No, wait. Yeah, that's perfect. They're not ready for that. And as they shouldn't, because it takes a while to get to a good end result, which is why a lot of artists take days and weeks to make these sounds. But anyway, we're not going to use Serum. We're going to use something that everyone has in Ableton. This time I'm going to use Wavetable. Wavetable is basically Serum, but it is kind of down to the bare bones of Serum. Serum has a lot of effects, a lot of things you can do, a lot of interesting things, but at the end of the day, a lot of dubstep producers use Wavetable synthesizers, which is, it has all these different pre-made waves. So this is a sine wave. If you look up here, it's just a sine wave. It shows exactly what it is on the I forget the name, oscilloscope, I want to say. But up here we see the spectrum. We have one fundamental note, it's just playing one note. It's a sine wave. It has no stereo image at all. It's right down the middle, and it is a sine wave. I have this set up like Rekordbox so you can see it. It is literally oscillating an up and down movement. You can even see that, and then it's just one big note. But you can also transform that with a wavetable. It smoothly transitions between that smooth sine wave and a square wave, which is a very harsh up and down, which usually it has a lot of harmonics to it. Harmonics is, like I said, one note. The more waves, the more stuff we add, it's going to add harmonics all the way up to the high frequencies of your sound. Usually you want it to be a pretty even across the frequency spectrum. So let's make a weird sound from this. We're going to start from a sine wave and work our way up. First thing we're going to do is add a filter. We're going to add a scooping filter. That's not the actual name of it, but it's basically taking one of these and scooping a part of the sound out. But there's no sound to scoop out, so we're going to add a distortion. Distortion is basically it's basically making a square wave. That's not the exact definition, but at the end of the day, dubstep producers love distortion. So we're going to take that drive and just push it all the way up. You can slowly see the harmonics coming in the more we add. You can almost see this going through the frequency. Let me show you. Like, we're down to here. Oh, I gotta turn this back on. You see how it's just sweeping those high-end frequencies away. Anyway, we're gonna go back to this. Didn't know you could add two. That's pretty cool. What the fuck is the point of that? Anyway, next thing we're gonna add. So also, I did not get into this. I have Ableton 11. I don't have 12 yet. I'm gonna be upgrading soon. But I have these collections set up where I have my favorites, which is a lot of just random stuff, my samples that I have created, the wave plugins that work on my computer, and this is the most important one. This is not only a lot of plugins that I reuse over and over and over again. It also is the racks that I have built for myself, and like I said, all these random plugins. The most used plugins I use to get to a good sound quickly. I like to think of sound design plugins as there's two different kinds. There's ones that completely mess up your sound in the good way, and there's ones that are made to create the sound that you want, as opposed as an example of like a comb filter is going to destroy stuff in the middle, and then at the end I'll add a EQ to bring my sub back. It's correcting the sound, if that makes sense. Or just, like I said, a vocoder is just going to like, what is that? That is such a difference from, but we're not going to go that far. What we're going to add is a saturator, if I can spell. There we go. And we got a square one. You can see up here. What are we going to add in the middle? We're going to add an OTT. No one really knows what OTT does, and that is not the one we're going to use. We're going to use the Ableton one, but it's an upwards and downwards compressor that kind of collides the sound in the middle and makes it sound glued, like I said earlier. I'm sorry. Next thing I'm going to do is add a frequency shifter. This is one of those plugins that is going to absolutely destroy your sound if you let it. Good thing about this EQ is I can come right here. I just held down control, so now I have two of them. I can see my sound going into this OTT, and I can see it. It does not sound very good right now, but we're going to add a reverb. Everyone loves a reverb. We're gonna add it after the saturator. So it's basically putting your sound in a room. So if I put this all the way up, everyone loves a reverb. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna group this specific reverb. We open this. So the way that our sound is working right now is it's coming out of the synth into this plugin, into the EQ, and going down the chain until it hits here. Once it hits the saturator, it's hitting the reverb, which is going into, get rid of that, this EQ. But what if we want to split up our chain that we have? The way I'm going to be doing 3D tutorials as well, but the way that they talk about it in 3D is it's called proceduralism, where you set up a network of different nodes, which is basically each one of these is a different node doing different things, very different things. You build a network, and then once you have the end result, which is my level, you can go back and change literally anything, and it will go through all the chain until it hits that end result again. And it just gives you so many ways to change your sounds. So we're going to check. Anyway, before we get too deep into that, it's going through this reverb, which is taking over the sound if you want to think about it like that. Without it, very different sounds. But what we can do is create a new chain. So now this saturator is being split into two. This is reverb, and this is the original sound. I'm going to duplicate this and put it on the reverb chain. So now if we take the lows out of the reverb channel, this is soloed out. Play them together. It's not fully taking over the sound, and then we can even bring this down. So now you still get the reverb, but you also get your fundamental sound as well. So they're kind of colliding together, and to make that collision even more apparent, we're going to add another saturator after. Yeah. This is why you have a clipper on your master, so that way you don't blast your headphones and you don't start bleeding from the ears. Anyway, we're going to continue. We're going to go backwards in our chain and add something different to make a different end result. So this, we're going to change this to, what this is going to do is it's going to basically do this. It's going to take the low out and the high out as well. So already we have a very complex chain. Not very complex, but it's a complex chain. If you walked in and saw, if you just walked in the room and you looked at this, it would take you a second to find out what's actually going on, which is not ideal when you're writing and you're making sounds on the fly or making a track. You don't want to get too in the weeds of this EQ is not at one, it's not over here, it needs to be over here. You want to condense things and make them easy so that way you can write faster. So I Control A, I highlighted everything, grouped it. So now if I click this, it is condensed down to a rack. And what I can do is I can map this to a macro, and then I can hide it. So this is what I would load, and this is what you would see. I would rename our macros, but so when I load this whatever bass this is, I have control over the sound that I created in hindsight. So when I'm writing, I can still make variations without having to deep dive into what is all going on in this sound. This is not ideal, but this is just showing the exciting part of sound design. Duplicate it 4 times, group that, condense that down. Duplicate that 4 times, group that, condense that, duplicate it 1 more time. That's over. This is how use sound design right here. Now, what is this sound going to sound like? One rack of 17 racks. Anyway. Yeah. The thing is we started with this. Literally, this is the synth. This is the post-processing. All of this stuff. This is definitely cheat. This is not cheating, but it's showing an example of you can make very complex things, condense that down. You can save this out, put it on a random song or a random sound, and it's gonna sound completely different. Let's add a vocoder to the right of the video. God, that tail is insane. What else can we add to this to make it interesting? Let's go to sound design. Let's find out. Let's see. Corpus is very fun to work with. Erosion. Let's do another filter right here, and we're gonna scoop out some of these frequency and then add another different. Good God. We're gonna, yeah. Anyway, so that was all. This is, like I said, these are sounds at the very beginning to really change the sound. If we take this vocoder off, sounds good too, but so now that we have the sound made, we can literally condense all of this, kind of bring it down to a level that we can actually visually see. Save it out, put it in a folder somewhere. You can not only just save this whole thing, you can change out the. Let's see what happens when we do this. If you ain't redlining, you ain't headlining. I think that's a little bit past redlining. I think that's just anyway. So now that we have the sound, like I said, the next part of sound design for me is the corrective part where you make the sound. Like I said, the sub is probably going on both sides. Thing about the stereo spectrum is you need to focus on it, but you don't also need to focus on it. So what we're going to do is just a quick you can go between the two, and I take the sides, scoop out everything below 100 hertz out, which means that all of this is going to be mono, which means that this basically under 100 hertz or a little bit after is the stuff that you hear outside the club before you go in, is the stuff that you hear when you put your hands over your ears and you hear the sub bass. Everything above here is the high definition, sibilance, and everything in the middle is, the body of most sounds. But everything under here is going to be flat right down the middle. And we're even going to scoop out some of the very bottom, so that way there is a definitive, because it's digital audio, it's going to keep going forever, but you just can't hear down to that level. We're just going to give it a scoop just to make sure it stays where it needs to be. basic stuff like that. Anyway, this is just a small tutorial. We're definitely going to get farther into synthesis and post processing. But like I said, if you look, let me just add one more thing just to show you. So real quick, I'm writing. I have a comb filter right here. I put it in right after the vocoder. What is this? It is, I should name it for sure. But what it is it's Serum Effects comb filter, but mapped to macros. So that way I don't have to go into Serum, find the Serum Effects over here, put in the Serum Effects, go into Serum Effects, go through all of this, find the filter, go to Combs. I know that Combs filter gets you really cool results really fast. So I'll minimize it. I have it saved as a rack. I throw it on. I know this is the frequency. I know this is the mix, and I know this is the drive. That is the fun part of sound designing, is just sitting here and just tweaking knobs, making racks, saving them, trying them on different sounds, putting them on a vocal, putting them on a snap. I've made a lot of tear out songs are literally a white noise sample that just goes through a sub and a white noise sample that just go through so much processing. It comes out the other side sounding like YVM3. Anyway, I'm going to stop for today. Thank you all for joining me, and I hope you all have a great day.